DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when we sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo, Jesse, AJ coming to you live on a Saturday. AJ and I talked about this a little bit pregame the other day. Jesse, I know you were there. Yeah. You live streamed the Gabe Landeskog presser.
It was funny. I was in my car listening to
Jesse's feed. Yes,
through my phone as
through your car.
He was listening to it.
Nice.
So it was like 7 layers of technology gave me access to that interview as I was driving to the bar.
Unfortunately, it sounds like it might take 7 layers of technology to fix Landeskog's knee.
All right. We gotta start off like that, huh?
It was we were all not joking because it's not funny, but we were talking in the media room before, like, do you think he's gonna cry? Like, because this is you could just feel the weight of all of it in the room before he even entered.
You think he's gonna cry? You guys taking odds on it?
Well, just because it was a big moment. Now you could tell it was a big decision for him, and he got a little teary-eyed right at the beginning, but he held it together. So we officially decided that no, he didn't.
The authorities on
right,
crying.
yeah. No tear made it halfway down the cheek. Did not count. No, all jokes aside,
just some really full eyes.
Yeah. It was really eye-opening. We were all really surprised at, as I'm sure you guys were, how forthcoming he was, and he even acknowledged. I know we typically stay pretty tight-lipped about injuries, but he did say this goes all the way back to the bubble when he got the freak injury, Cale Makar's skate coming up, cutting him on the knee. This is all stemming from that. It's just never fully gotten back to where it needed to be. They thought they had it right. It was bothering him in the COVID-shortened season and then into last year. That's why they elected to have the surgery. He came back. He played on it. Thought he was going to be good to go. There was no consideration that it was going to bleed into this year. Then the captain's skates come around right before training camp. It's bothering him. And now we're all kind of aware of where it's been at here for the last few months.
I just can't believe that cursed ass series is how this whole thing started.
Right, dude, seriously. And, there were a lot of parts of it that stuck out to me. One of which being him saying, and he sounded fairly confident in, that this will likely lead into next season.
Year. Yeah.
He more than likely won't be good to go by game 1 of next year's regular season. He said that as of right now, they have no reason to believe that he won't, that this will be career ending. But he definitely acknowledged, we also didn't think we'd be here.
On the flip side of that, though, they provided no level of optimism that they knew how to fix it. And that's where it's like, the confidence that he's going to come back someday and play again, great.
Well,
cool.
It
shouldn't be a career-ending injury, but until they figure out what they want to do in order to correct it,
how to progress forward.
Are you just going to play through pain?
No.
So
what he said was he said he's off the ice,
right?
Because that's what I took away from it. Reading between the lines, that was what it was that they haven't ever, kind of like the Crosby concussion thing.
Well,
you just have to pull the plug on it eventually, because him continuing to play,
I mean, there's a couple of layers to this,
and
right?
Skating on it isn't helping.
He went out and said, hey, look, I can live my daily life fine. Like, I don't have any pain when I'm walking around. It's just skating, and particularly at full bore NHL caliber, where it becomes a problem for him. But the other side of that is, and let me preface this with, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to have all these answers. But we've seen across sports for my entire life, cartilage injuries just don't get better.
Yeah, cartilage injuries have a really, really, really sketchy history of repair.
Well, and they've got a really long runway. Like, even if a cartilage injury goes really well, recovery goes really well, I mean, you're talking a year and a half, 2 years. And so when you factor in the fact that Gabe Landeskog, what we're kind of learning is that it never has healed up properly.
Yeah.
That's what I think the solution is. I think get him off the ice and don't put him anywhere near it until January of 24 at bare minimum. Let this actually get some runway that it needs here, because going back 2 years, He hasn't ever gotten that.
It needs the runway. I agree with you there, but based on what he had said, it sounds like they probably need to do more than that. And
yeah, he said it's on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if they take that, if they decide, hey, we're going to give it 4 months of rest, and it just doesn't get better, then you've wasted 4 months.
I mean, I don't know if you call it a waste. I think that's more information.
Sure, but that's 4 months that you don't get back. That's 4 months that.
Well, right,
you know,
but so I
you
guess
get into.
So are you saying do this, like figure out what surgeries you need now?
Yeah,
yeah. I'm with you. I'm not just saying give them the
that
rest.
would be that's my preference.
Yeah.
Is if you need to go and have microfracture surgery, which is predominantly surgery to repair cartilage, do that.
And that was what he said.
It's
he
a drastic
said
thing. It's got a very long recovery time, but I would prefer that over. Let's just see how this goes first.
Well, and again,
like,
I want to be clear.
Maybe he is. We don't know what's next here.
I don't think that they are in a wait and see. When we asked, is there going to be more surgery? He led on that there would be. That's my honest guess. Is that they're pulling him off the ice.
Working this.
They're pulling him off the ice. Stop, because he said it's not productive. I believe was his word. Being on the ice, like it wasn't helping anything. Get him off the ice. Figure out what your assessment is. If you need any surgeries, do that, and then give it the proper time it needs to heal. And if that means you punt on most of next season as well, then punt on most of next season as well.
And their approach this summer is that they have $7 million to spend.
Right.
They should not be planning whatsoever for his return at all next year until a recovery of some kind suggests that it might be on the table. They should be spending that money to replace him.
And part of what this year has set up for them in that regard, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but we'll get through this conversation. The Avs just proved that they can handle the regular season just fine without Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah, and that's with $7 million wasted.
Right. That they could go out on pick your favorite free agent.
They're gonna have right around $13 million to spend this summer. Now that number is 20.
Yep.
It changes your approach to things. You know, you obviously keep in mind that it's not forever $7 million to spend. It's not just a free $7 million. Woo! But when you're talking about this was going to be the year that they could have really used the cap going up $3 million instead of $1 million.
Yeah.
That $7 million is breathing room for them to go and find a solution
to get to that cap.
To find somebody to replace Landeskog, to maybe bring back a JT Compher.
I was going to say Compher.
To do what it just opens up a door to say we can actually address this situation here. You know, you could bring maybe an Evan Rodriguez back and then go and get another forward. Mm-hmm. You can do so many different things with that money. And that's not a, you would rather just have Gabe Landeskog.
Right.
You would just rather have that guy back. He's so good and he's so important to you as your captain, but their planning moving forward cannot include the possibility of, well, maybe he comes back and we get lucky.
Here's the part that I want to clarify, because there was a report that came out, or a quote that came out after the game. We got in the locker room and we were able to talk to some of the guys just about the news officially, right? Obviously, they know before we do, and I'm sure Gabe had that conversation.
The McKinnon thing?
It's the McKinnon thing. So, and you react to that because you've been in the locker room. You know the way that Nate is. Everyone was talking to Nate after the game about Gabe Landeskog, and Nate downplayed it and said, "Oh yeah, I knew a month ago he wasn't coming back. You know, whatever." So that quote went out, and everybody jumped on. They've known for a month. They whatever. Why didn't they make these decisions? Gabe Landeskog said, and this has been confirmed by several other people.
Yeah.
It wasn't until a week ago, last week.
Still thought he was going to get back for some of the playoffs.
His expectation was, I will be back at some point. And he said that even that week before was the first time where he said he had to have the acknowledgement of, I won't be back round 1, game 1.
Yep.
That he was operating, the team, the trainers, everybody were operating under the assumption that no matter what, if push came to shove, no matter what, round 1, game 1, he's back.
Yeah, and the timeline was before then. The expectation, because I know this is about the deadline conversation.
Yes.
The day of the deadline, the conversation was he will be back this year.
Yep. He will be back. And they actually even had reason to believe he would be back with a handful of games to spare to be able to get into games.
Again, Landeskog went out in front of the media and said, I was progressing well until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, laid all of it out and said when it started to plateau, which was a recent development, that is when we decided there might be
some issues.
This may not happen.
I followed up on that word specifically. I said, you said plateau. Was there a setback? Did anything go backwards? And he said, no, it just stopped progressing.
Getting better.
Yep.
And so that's the part that, again, I don't actually care if people are pissed at Chris McFarland, but it just the
take's just not based in reality.
I do because it's retconning history, and that frustrates me.
Right. It's the talking as if the Avs knew, and I even made the argument on Twitter because this is something that we talked about. God, I don't know. Could you maybe even make the argument that the uncertainty around getting Gabe Landeskog back played a hand in well, if we're not even going to have our full deck.
Yeah, if you're talking about going all in at the deadline,
wasting assets.
What you're talking about is you're talking about spending assets on a limited field of players because everybody knows at the deadline, teams are not moving certain guys until they get into the summer. So you're talking about only the guys that teams are willing to move at the deadline. We know that that's not a very big pool of players.
Yep.
Especially impact guys, because teams like Vancouver, teams that are going to be open for business to moving money and moving, doing some different things, do that in the summer when they're setting up their salary structure for the coming years. That includes a team like Colorado. So you're talking about a limited pool of players. You're talking about limited assets to begin with, and then all of that just so that they can go and try and make a run without Gabe Landeskog.
I think people
now, is the do nothing approach?
No, you wanted them to do something, but I think people also forget when you got to actual deadline day, there really weren't very many forwards left.
This is my other thing.
The East went hard in the paint, man.
Going out and getting John Klingberg does not replace Gabe Landeskog.
Does getting John Klingberg make you feel better about how they use that money?
This conversation right here is my thing with all of it. You were talking about spending assets. Ryan O'Reilly is a guy that I think could have moved the needle. He was gone.
That was the one guy that you look at and say, if they had done it, I would have been all about it, and
it would have made sense.
It would have made a lot of sense. He would have checked so many of the Landeskog boxes that were missing, that it would have been great.
But he's gone a month before the deadline, and the Avs were in on it. They got outbid. The Avs are in on it. He's gone a month before the deadline.
They would have had to have grossly overpay to convince the Blues to trade away that guy to a team that they don't like very much.
Right, in the division.
And you look at Taves out with long COVID issues.
I was going to say, so hold on. So then Patrick Kane, he's the other guy that you say maybe moves the needle.
I'm only going to New York.
One team trade list. Jonathan Taves pulls himself out of contention. Bo Horvat traded even before Ryan O'Reilly.
Adam Henrique gets hurt.
Like the options.
There were pros and cons to all these guys, and almost all of them involved committing money to next year that they didn't have. Now you could look at it with the knowing what you know about Landeskog with the $7 million that they opened up in their cap space and say, now you can eat up the Adam Henrique $5 million or whatever.
Well, it's whoever you want. That's the way that I'm looking at it. I'm saying
you could. There was Ryan O'Reilly for free in free agency.
There was enough, right? There was enough uncertainty around Gabe Landeskog that you use the phrase "all in." To me, had you spent those assets, large assets, to get those players, they would have been all-in moves, but you wouldn't have ever truly been all in because you didn't have your full team. The way I look at it is they're saying, cool, house money. We made a depth move. We tweaked. We think it made us marginally better. We're looking at the Western Conference. We think we have a group that can go on a run as it is.
Go sign Ryan O'Reilly and Lars Eller this summer.
Sure. And we think we have a group that can go on a run as it is. And if we get late into the playoffs, who knows? And then we'll go into the summer and we'll spend all of those same assets to gear up for an entire year.
And this will be a great conversation in the summer.
Well, but I do think
conversation today too.
I do think it is relative today.
More pressing things happening today.
But I think it's all hand in hand because like I said, I just think that people are looking at this and saying, oh, they didn't do it this year. You have to imagine they're stepping back and saying, all of this is connected. All of it has to do with this thing leads to this thing leads to this thing. Them not getting Gabe Landeskog back. Okay, I'm actually happier that they didn't go out and spend the assets now knowing that Gabe's not coming back because nothing would have moved the needle enough.
To clarify, I am talking about they get $7 million because I'm not expecting Landeskog for next season.
That's LTIR money.
That's the money that they would open up. And if he comes back at some point, they would need that space for him. But they will also have an inkling that he's coming back, so they can prepare for that. And that's to be honest, that is a good problem to have.
You sort that when you get there.
You don't have to spend all 7 of it. You can go spend $4 million of it.
Yep.
And save a little bit of that space. And then when he comes back prorated, because it's not like he's going to come back first week of the season. You're not going to need $7 million in cap space to get him back.
Well, and also jump ahead to July. That is almost 3.5-ish months from now.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what we started this conversation about. You're going to have 3.5 more months of information. You'll know if you've had another surgery, if you need one.
What the timeline looks like, how his recovery
you'll
started,
have gotten
et cetera,
different opinions. You'll have so much more information, plus an entire summer that you're staring down to make these decisions. I just think that this year, again, they weren't expecting him to miss any time until right before training camp kicked off.
Yeah.
So this was all just kind of rolling with the week-to-week punches here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now you've got an entire summer. You know what you can do. You held on to the stuff you needed to. Take this summer to figure it out.
Just keep in mind, opening night of next season is still 6 months away.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is why we'll talk about it in the summer.
So, we're talking about it right now because we're talking about Landy.
And
this
that
is where
part's relevant. I'm
conversation
saying
is.
let's not get too much into the weeds on the free
we don't need
agency
to figure
stuff.
out how
That's
they
all.
are spending the money.
Right, right.
I'm mostly just
Yeah,
kidding
that's-
about Ryan O'Reilly, but
But the point is, you'll have enough information that if those are decisions that you want to make, you'll have enough information to do that. This year just genuinely felt I believe Jared Bednar when we've asked him for updates, and he said I don't really know.
The Avs will get cheeky about certain things. They've never been an organization straight up lie about a big thing like this.
Yep.
They might lie about week to week or day to day and get a little
when
cute
someone
with what
is
does that mean.
out, they've always gone up in front of everyone and said, "Yeah, he's out."
Right.
Let me look at the Eric Johnson thing. You look at when Sam Girard got hurt in the postseason last year.
Yep.
We knew before the post-game presser started what had happened and how long he was out.
Yep.
We knew all that stuff. They have been open when they were like, a guy's done, he's done.
Well, and
We've known in the past Eric Johnson when he broke his kneecap.
Yep.
When Varley got hurt that one year.
the surgery.
Yeah, like you're talking about, they have been open about those types of things. Where they get cute is the little day-to-day shit.
Yeah.
And I think that they did that this year with Landeskog.
And then it turned out it was way more than day to day.
Anytime they think a guy's coming back, they get all cute with it and they play little word games with you, and you've got to try and figure it out on the fly.
Well,
This ultimately this sucks though.
Totally. And my last thing on it, just relative to what we're talking about here, because we really did, because we were hearing it from everyone on Twitter, on these shows. What's going on, Landy? What's going on, Landy? So we, as a media corps, we pushed Jared harder on this issue than we push on most injuries because the lack of information.
Yeah.
And on 2 separate occasions, we said, tell us what he's doing now relative to what he wasn't doing a week ago. Give us any level of definable measurables that you can.
Where is he?
Right,
what is going on here?
And he literally would default to, he was like, guys, I don't know. He tells us he's feeling better this day, then the next day, it doesn't feel as good as it did the day before. That's all we have to go on. And again, now with all of this information coming out of this presser, that all makes a little bit more sense because the expectations were one thing and it just never got there.
They weren't being cute and just being like, oh, we're not going to tell you.
Right.
There was nothing for them to give to us.
The progress didn't match the expectations. So it was like, we don't know.
And it really was nice to get a timeline of what the hell is going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing has not made any sense. When Bednar would be like, oh, we had a procedure. And it was like, well, was it reconstructive? Is it arthroscopic?
It was when they
is
started...
it a big deal? And then he'd be like, oh, it was for a different thing, but it was the same knee. And you're like...
It was when they started splitting the hairs between procedure and surgery that I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was like, can you just tell us what's going on?
Everyone stop. And so just because I don't think we've actually said it, cartilage in the lower patella, that is where this is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the injury.
That's the injury. It's a cartilage injury in the lower patella is what Gabe said the other day. So I really do think that none of this was intentional. I don't think any of it was intentionally deceptive.
Well, and do you think the Avs are happy about the position that they're in?
Right.
Don't you think they would have known, like, if they would have loved to have had that clarity on deadline day?
So
to
they
say,
could go do something?
So they could,
Yeah.
if they wanted to, and there was something that made sense with a guy that they liked, they could have more aggressively pursued something.
Well,
you think this is the position they wanted to be in? Like, give me a break with that.
Ryan O'Reilly's actually a great example because if you would have known a month ahead of time that you were
could have
shutting Gabe Landeskog
more
down,
aggressively gone involved
you would
in
have
that.
gone after him more aggressively because you would have known we're not getting him back. I just think the reason I think that all of this conversation is important is because I just think there's been such a misunderstanding in the last 48 to 72 hours about what knowledge the Avs actually had, what kind of decisions they were making behind the scenes with this alleged knowledge.
It's not
that they
even
had
a
for months.
misunderstanding. People are out there straight up lying about it.
Yeah, they are straight up rewriting history to be mad about it.
Yep.
Because they already didn't like the deadline, and so that they wanted to use this as proof that they blew the deadline. You could still feel like they didn't do enough.
Sure.
We felt that way on the day
Entirely
of.
separate from the Landeskog thing, though.
It had nothing to do with Landy.
Yeah.
We just felt they didn't do enough. They had some assets. We thought they had some opportunities to go get guys that could help. They chose not to do it. It is what it is. But the information that regarding Landeskog that they have today is not the information they had the day of. And trying to pretend like that's true is incredibly disingenuous and frustrating.
Well, and I saw people talking about like, oh, what a waste of a year, what a waste of a window opportunity.
They have won the division.
They won the division. They
I'm gonna fight people.
They are the current.
I want to get into
Cup
this. I
champions.
want to get into this
Okay.
conversation.
Come down to the bar. We're fighting.
Before we do a little pick of the week for you here. Yes, there's no Gabe Landeskog. Give you a little sneak peek of our previews. I'm still picking the Avs to sweep the first round series, even
Me too.
without Gabe Landeskog.
Just kidding. I didn't pick that.
Put your money where your mouth is. Maybe I'll put it a little down on DraftKings for a sweep.
Do it.
You can get good odds if you're picking exact results of a series. So go check them out over at
Definitely do
DraftKings.
that. And the person that ends up right has to buy beer.
There you go. Done. We'll make it happen. When you sign up with a new account and code DNVR over at DraftKings, you bet $5 on anything and you get $150 in free bets. You can place those on the Avs playoffs, Nuggets playoffs. You can place those on the NFL draft. That's the next thing that's happening in the NFL. Plenty of options to go with over at DraftKings. You can bet on other ridiculous sports that I don't know anything about. If you want, go for it. DraftKings has them all.
It's the professional tag that gets me.
Yeah.
Those guys, you want to talk about knee injuries? Mother of God.
But then your career is just over in professional tag at that
Yeah,
point.
you're definitely not in the American healthcare system. Girl, please. You done.
When you do go over to DraftKings, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See the show notes down below for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And it's all void in Ohio. Also brought to you by the fantastic people over at Fubo TV. You can go to FuboTV.com/DNVR today to order and get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. You can watch the Avs over there. You can watch the Nuggets over there. They got your sports coverage for Colorado, which, unfortunately still has trouble finding altitude.
I tell you, not during the playoffs at least. Dropped the exclusivity for it.
Which is nice.
Which, you know what? It's not much, but doing a solid for the peeps here.
I think they did it last year too.
Okay. I just don't remember.
And good on them. They should.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can go watch it, but Fubo TV has the Avs ready to go. That's kind of the part that's important about it. For people
It's
who
so
just
good,
want to
honestly.
turn the TV on and be watching hockey.
When we had a vodka, like we had one here that we got to use, and it was pretty standard stuff. Like it was pretty boilerplate. But with Fubo, I'm using it at home.
Yep.
Like I'm on my own devices,
Well,
and
you're-
I'm actually like.
Well, and you're the one that said you literally just signed up, hit I like sports, and then
I literally, because they were like,
yeah.
how could we customize this for you? And I was like, oh, I'm just trying to find the Avs game. So I'm like, and I literally hit sports and then allowed location, and it popped up the Avs game. And I was like, dude, this is easy.
There you go. So Fubo can take care of it. You can use the QR code on screen there or go to FuboTV.com/DNVR to order today.
they lose all credibility.
Yeah.
Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by
Gotta do something
DraftKings
about
Sportsbook. We're starting to get into this conversation. Let me
frustrates
start it
me.
with the overarching question. No Gabe Landeskog for the playoffs. Are the Avs Stanley Cup contenders?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So believers in the
That
hockey
has
team.
as much to do with the Avs as it does the West.
For sure. And the West is weak. I don't think there's
If
any
you can
argument
get to a
there.
Stanley Cup final, anything can happen.
I don't think the West is as weak as we've maybe made it out to be. Like I think
I don't think it's as wide open as people want to pretend either.
I agree. I agree.
There's a middle ground.
I think I genuinely do. I think a lot of these 16 teams in the playoffs, I think a lot of them are flawed, East and West. I think a lot of them have deficiencies. I just think there's fewer in the East with deficiencies than
I would agree.
They all
with
have to
that.
go through each other. It's great that it's not any of the whatever team comes out from the West is like that shit
Okay.
ain't our problem.
Yeah.
right.
Got their own battles to fight. And sure, I'm not saying it's a free roll in the West or anything. That would be
For sure.
disingenuous.
But anybody that wants to pretend like the West is wide open and it's not still running through Colorado, straight up lying.
Yeah.
I
agree
see
with
all
that
you
too.
people on Twitter from Canada lying.
Well, I was gonna say that there was the piece last week, 2 weeks ago, that was like, is the new team to beat Edmonton? It's like they're good, but the team to beat is Colorado.
Yeah.
Like it's
I'm sorry, is there a Stanley Cup defending Stanley Cup champion out West right now? Oh, is that answer yes? Did they just win the division and get home ice? Is that answer yes? If so, then is Edmonton still the team to beat? No, shut up.
Math ain't that complicated.
Yeah. How about they win their first series and we can talk about them being the team to beat? And that's only because they lost their last series
Yep.
to another team out West
Yep.
who just won a division. All I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You lose 465 man games to injury and you win your division. You want to talk about the fucking Edmonton Oilers? Get out of my face.
yeah.
You said it. I do want to focus in on the Avs a little bit here, though. Yes, they can still be contenders. You're working with no Gabe Landeskog. Does this reshape the way you see the Avs top six? Do you start considering tinkering, moving things around a little bit?
I would say no, just because you've been this way all year.
Sure.
You're pretty well practiced at this point for
And
life
I'm-
without Gabe Landeskog because you just went through 82 of those games. So I would say that you have I think they have a lineup in mind, and then there's going to be a contingency plan,
Sure.
and then there's going to be a break glass in case of emergency.
Sure. Where does that start? McKinnon and Rantanen together?
Yes, for me, yes.
I think it starts there, but Jared has made mention several times over the last number of weeks about how much he's appreciating the season that Nate and Mikko have had because they found so much success away from each other. So I do think in the different scenarios you're laying out there, I don't think he's going to be afraid to split them up if he feels like we need to stretch this offense a little bit.
Sure.
I think he's very comfortable dropping Mikko at a 2C or, whatever you want to define that at that point. If he needs to, if he sees that that's the best way to get your matchups. And I don't know, maybe you even see, I always laugh when we talk about lines with Jared Bednar.
Because they don't stay in a single game.
They don't stay. And what you actually
Last
see.
night's game, Alex Galchenyuk played 240.
Shift to shift, they're different. Yeah.
And they moved guys around, like Lehkonen moved around and played on 3 different lines throughout the game.
Well, and like what you'll have a lot is he'll
it
start
is.
a game one way. So maybe he'd start it, and I'm just pulling 3 names: Lehkonen, McKinnon, Rantanen.
Yeah.
And then for the meat of the game, he'll get completely away from it. And then the last 8 minutes,
go back
Lehkonen,
to it.
McKinnon,
Yeah.
Rantanen.
The
And
meat
so-
of the game, Nichushkin will be in Lehkonen's spot.
Yeah.
Lehkonen
Right.
will be down next to Comfort and
Yep.
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the game, depending on the game state, he'll be like, yeah, we're going to go back to that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whatever, man. You're so impossible.
So I think he's
Such an extra head coach.
and it was part of what I think made them so good in the playoffs last year was they got to spend the last 6 weeks of the season tinkering with all that
Yeah.
and dialing in. Ooh, I really like this combination in this situation. I like this.
Yep.
And I think he kind of sneaky did a bit of that while remaining
It's-
competitive here over the last few weeks.
We talk a lot about head coaches hunting matchups. Jared Bednar hunts situations.
Yeah.
He's way more interested in this scenario. I want these guys on the ice.
That's the matchup he hunts. Is he's not looking at
the other team's lines.
He's
so
not
much
trying
as,
to hard match personnel.
Yep.
He's trying to match his personnel to a situation.
Exactly.
So I think that's one of the things that I've appreciated about this coaching staff since it got here, is that why do you have Sam Girard and Cale Makar on the ice together? Well, you just got done with a penalty kill, and you have an offensive zone face-off, and like little things like that where you're like, hey, he's getting his most talented and his freshest guys out there for a certain situation he thinks he can take advantage of. And that's how these little things come to be in games. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but it's a really interesting wrinkle from the Avalanche coaching staff that exists from that other coaching staffs don't try to utilize very much.
And then it can't be overstated enough, the matchup advantage that they have. I've talked about it several times with just the defense in general. Like you said, you get done with a penalty kill, you have top guys that were out there, whatever. If you're having to roll a bottom six line and Edmonton tries to get cute with you and they've got, last change at home and they roll McDavid, cool. We'll roll Cale and Bo, Cale and Taves.
Or what they do is that they'll be like, hey, we're going to sneak Jack Johnson out there.
Yep.
We're going to put him with Cale.
Right.
We're going to put him with Taves for a shift. We're going to do whatever. And the other part of this is that the Avs do this so often that it's not like it's a change of pace for them. These guys know.
Yeah, they all play with each other.
Exactly. These guys know that they're going to get they're going to get used situationally like this. Whereas a team started trying to do this in the middle of a postseason series, it's going to make all their guys uncomfortable and weird, and they're not going to be in a comfort zone in terms of when am I going to play? Who am I playing with? What am I being asked to do?
Yeah.
Because so much of a player's comfort in a role comes from familiarity. Yeah. And understanding what's being asked of them, what their goals are to accomplish when they're on that shift. Because let's be honest here, when Logan O'Connor's out there, he's not like, I'm scoring goals, baby. He's like, I'm taking care of this business first, and then we'll see. We'll try and accomplish these goals if we can.
Get pucks deep, banging bodies all night long.
It is just a different
roll 4 lines.
It is just a different mindset, different kind of a different set of goals. And when Colorado utilizes its defense in that way, those guys all understand that
for sure,
because they've been rotating through the system for a number of years now.
And I remember it being so funny last year because again, it was something that Jared really, I felt kind of like gamesmanshipy, where because of everything that we're talking about and the way that he's comfortable mixing things and guys are comfortable playing with different players, he's totally comfortable on the road. We'll give you whatever matchup you want. We will give you whatever matchup you want because we think that we have enough, kind of interchangeable dynamics on offense and defense that we're comfortable in almost any matchup.
Part of the magic of that, Bednar can allow his team to do that a little bit because anytime another team is hunting a matchup, cool. That means McKinnon and Rantanen are getting a matchup back the other way.
It's every time you point at somebody, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. like you look at it, they're gonna try and hunt out this. Oh, they're gonna try and put, Seattle's gonna try and put Matty Beniers on the ice against Lars Eller, and they're gonna try and okay, great. That's the matchup that they're going to hunt. Okay, well, that puts Nathan McKinnon against who exactly?
Exactly.
Right.
There's a trade-off that every coaching staff has to live with, and Colorado is one of the few that is very, very comfortable
taking
just
a trade.
saying, what is it that you guys are trying to do over there? Cool.
We good.
Yeah.
We're good with that.
Very, very quick sidebar here. Should Jared Bednar be a Jack Adams finalist?
Yes, dude. Absolutely.
No doubt.
He won't be.
I know he won't be, but
I think he'll finish 4th.
I don't know that he'll finish that high.
Good teams, defending champs rarely get
it's
the...
going to be Jim Montgomery's going to win. He's going to win running away.
Yeah.
Lindy Ruff's going to finish 2nd. He's probably going to finish 2nd with quite a bit of distance. And then after that, you can make an argument for a number of guys. I know that there's a lot of Dean Evison love out there. I know that there's some Jared Bednar love. For some inexplicable reason, Rod Brindamore is immune from team with high expectations, performs well in the regular season, and everybody's like, Rod the Bod doing a great job. And you're like, okay, well, he's got a good team. They performed well. What did Rod do that was so special again?
Right.
So and has not had to navigate insane injury issues. There's plenty of Bruce Cassidy love. The Bruce Cassidy and Jared Bednar conversations are identical.
Yep.
They're identical. So if you give one of them love, you have to give the other one the same love.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
So I think the Avs and I think Jared Bednar and Nathan MacKinnon have gotten a little bit more recognition here over the last 2 weeks when they've really kind of put this run together to get to the top of the Central. Yeah. And I hope, and again, not that it actually matters, but I just hope for Jared Bednar's sake that he does get a little bit of love there, because I think this coaching staff has done a phenomenal job given the cards that they've been dealt throughout this season.
I mentioned it. They finished with it is a 6th place power play, 0.5% behind Dallas for 5th place. You lose an elite net front guy in Gabe Landeskog, and you replace him with JT Compher in front of your net, and you have a 6th place power play.
And keep in mind, not just Landy, you missed Val for 20 games from that unit.
Yeah.
You missed McKinnon for 11 games from that unit.
Arturi missed 17 games.
Kale's missed 20 games.
You have 22 games missed out of Cale Makar, and you have a 6th place power play finish.
It's ridiculous.
And we've seen coaching has the greatest impact on special team success based on systems and personnel and whatever. So great coaching job there. The penalty kill finishes, I think, 17th in the NHL, maybe 16th. I
Pretty
don't remember.
mid-pack. Yeah.
But since acquiring Lars Eller, 10th.
Well, and an absolute disaster start to the year for that penalty kill, and then it got significantly better after about mid-November. There was a stretch there where it was like top 5 in the league for a little while. Not overall, but in that stretch. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up. AJ, I know you've been kind of hinting at it, and I'm curious where your thoughts are with this as well, Jesse. Healthy defensive core. Is Jack Johnson your 6th, or is Eric Johnson your 6th?
For game 1, in my opinion, it's Jack.
I think I would play Jack. I expect the Avs to play Eric.
I agree. I think more than ever we are going to see. Oh, I was like, what the fuck? I think more than ever we're gonna see them utilize both. Like, I think
you get him a bag.
I was gonna say we gotta figure something out. There's like a hole in the floor or something like that.
I don't know. I don't think I want that. I think I'm good with this solution over him being on the floor.
No, he's got a hole in the floor.
Yeah, where's that going?
It's like we could have like one of those like laundry chute systems where like it's connected and it's got pipes and it runs into the bathroom from here, just behind the couch maybe.
All right.
I think we're gonna see the Avs. It's the meme, but I think they're gonna be rotating their Johnsons this playoffs, not for health reasons, but just who's hot hand, who's fresh. Are you feeling good? You blocked a shot. You're feeling a little sore today. Sweet. Other one's pulling in. I think they go to Eric Johnson first because it's Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
I get it. I personally, I think Jack Johnson's been fantastic since within the role of Jack Johnson and who you're asking him to be. I think he's been great since the trade deadline coming back to Denver.
Really good.
And I think you could end up, assuming you can stay healthy in the other 6 slots on your defense, I think it can be a nice keeping guys fresh, making sure that you're getting the best out of each of those guys that you can. I think it could end up being a nice.
If a guy is dinged up and you're like, look, he's at like 60%. If a Byram or a Gerard is like, hey, or a Manson is like, look, I'm really like I could really use the extra day or whatever. You go from 60% to 80%. Then, you do kind of have that luxury where you draw that guy into your lineup. You're not going to mess with Taves and Makar. You just can't.
Yeah.
But the other guys, I think, if they are feeling that the effects of a postseason series, they've got something going on that's really hampering them. Do it.
Totally.
That flexibility is something that I don't think a lot of teams have, particularly in a D-core.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to run 11-7 because who's the 7th guy that they trust?
I guess that would be that could be one of those situations though where if you have the situation you just laid out but with a forward.
I just don't see that happening because look at any time this entire year and a lot of last year, where the going gets tough for Colorado, they're shortening the bench on the defensive side. You're seeing Makar and Taves play 26, 27, 28 minutes.
Sure.
So why would you run a seventh D that's going to play seriously like 4 or 5 minutes?
Because for the 2 weeks where they did, Cale spoke about what a difference it was able to make, and that was some of the best hockey we saw Cale play because his minutes were down a bit. I'm with you guys. I don't think that's not something I'm expecting.
The 11-7, I mean, it's being suggested because of forward injury.
Right.
Not because you have a seventh D that you really want to run out.
And so that's my thing where it's like,
you probably just play McDermott at forward and call it good.
If you get down a forward, I think they're comfortable going to 11-7, knowing that, hey, this also maybe is a little bit of a boost up for Cale Makar
I think
2 days.
I know it's not exactly clear with Mulligan and Cogliano right now.
Yeah.
But you have Ben Myers. You have Alex Galchenyuk. Mm-hmm. It's not like the Avs are going to immediately be out of forwards and
with all due respect to Curtis McDermott,
he's been horrific this year.
Watching, I'm not even going to get into this year. Watching the way they handled it last year.
Yep. He didn't play a minute.
I don't think Curtis McDermott is in the conversation for playoffs. I think it would have to be 2020 bubble level injuries where you're down 8 regulars and 2 goalies for Curtis McDermott to draw into the lineup. So I
almost trust him at goalie more than I would at defense.
I don't even know if they'd put him in at forward. They had the opportunity to last year, and they didn't.
They had way better forward depth last year.
Sure.
We are brought to you by Shady Rays, by the way. So make sure you're looking good when you're staring into the bright lights of the playoffs. Unlike Jesse's glasses, make sure they're not smudged and dirty. Shady Rays has you covered for all your sunglasses needs, whatever type you like. If you order 2 pairs with code DNVR, you get 50% off your order. You can do it at shadyrays.com, or if you're local, they have a brick and mortar down in the Park Meadows Mall, so you can go check them out there. Their return policy is probably the coolest part. You have 30 days. If you break them, send them back. They'll give you a new pair. You lose them, let them know. They'll send you a new pair. You just don't like them, send them back. Swap them out for a different pair that you'll like more. Got you covered. They even have blue light filtering ones. They've got snow goggles. You name it. They got you covered over at Shady Rays. Go check them out today. And then wear your dope new sunglasses into your nearest Illegal Pete's location and get yourself a delicious burrito. Pete's got amazing burritos for starters. Just fresh ingredients, good stuff. Some of the best queso around you can find. And then they also do happy hour from 3 to 6 p.m. You can get yourself some delicious margaritas. If you're a beer fan like myself, you can grab a beer. It's a great place to pregame for the DNVR bar, especially with these playoff schedules now out. You know what to do. And trust me, you're going to want to get to the bar early for playoff games. So go to Pete's, come here, get your seats, be ready to go. Check them out. Illegal Pete's, 10 different locations here in Colorado, one just a couple blocks down the street from the bar. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Jesse, you were on the show the other day. If you had to pick 2 X factors in Colorado's lineup,
Yep.
pick 2.
Is JT Compher is my number 1. And then I'll take the low-hanging fruit and say Alexander Georgiev.
For sure.
I'm assuming that Nate and Mikko and Cale are all going to show up. Like, I don't consider them to be X factors. I think they're going to give you what they're going to give you.
Like they have in every playoff series.
Right. I think how far the Avs are able to go, and ultimately their ability to defend the title comes down to, can JT Compher build off of what has been, without a doubt, his best year as a pro? Can he build on that the way that he has built on every year going into the playoffs? And then can Alexander Georgiev continue to be who he's been? Because if you're getting this level of goaltending out of him with the way that the Avs have shown historically, they elevate their team defensive play, and the joke you were just kind of making, the way that their forwards always seem to find that other gear. That's not a team I'm picky against. If you're continuing to get this out of Alexander Georgiev, I'm terrified if I'm every other team out west.
That's with the Georgiev conversation. It's an interesting one because he can't prove it any more than he has already.
Right.
He just hasn't had the opportunity to prove it in the playoffs before.
He gonna get it.
And you have as much belief as you can have, but you get into the playoffs and there's always a let's make sure he can do it.
I mean, that's where goaltender legacies are built, or in the postseason.
Well,
more than anything else.
And the thing is, like, there's so many different levels of it. If Georgiev comes into the playoffs and plays well, the Avs can go far. If Georgiev comes into the playoffs and plays great, ain't nobody want any of that smoke.
Yeah, I mean, you consider the fact that the Avs won with, 906 goaltending last year?
Like, it was...
They're
like,
not good enough to do that again this year?
No, definitely not.
But if they get actual high-end goaltending, they get 925 goaltending in the postseason.
If they get a 9-2 anything, it's going to be a really hard team to beat.
Yeah. If Georgiev goes in and just outplays the opposing goaltender in each series, whatever that number needs to be.
That makes up the gap.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. That's the gap that you have no Nazem Kadri and Andrei Burakovsky to score the extra goal to get you at 4 every night.
So just don't give up the third one.
Exactly. You don't give up the third one, then you're in Yahtzee territory.
I can't wait for the Yahtzees.
Yahtzee?
Yeah, it was a little dicey there.
Territory?
Yeah.
Didn't realize what that sounded like until I said it.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I had someone tell me that Dennis Mulligan was their X factor, and people gave him a little bit of a hard time for it. But I understand that. I've talked. I may have already said this on the show before, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. He is the type of guy that I find just interesting on these types of runs. Not because I think he's going to be a big contributor from start to finish, but Dennis Mulligan is the exact type of player. I made the comparison before. Yoel Kiviranta. You get into a game, things are tight. The margins are as slim as they can get. You know, your top guys are being checked hard. Your matchups are, tight. You look down at the score sheet, you come out with a big emotional win. Dennis Mulligan picks up 2 goals, and it's just he kind of gets lost in the shuffle. He's got that offensive ability.
Look at a guy like Darren Helm in last year's playoffs.
Totally. That fourth line in general came up big a couple of times. In ways that maybe they didn't get enough credit because there were so many outstanding moments on that entire run. But multiple times in second round, Western Conference Final, Stanley Cup Final, that fourth line
did something big. Yep. So, look, I think there is a lot of reason to have a lot of confidence in this Colorado Avalanche team. But at the same time, it's the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's never going to be easy. Not a single one of these games. Yep.
All the teams are good. Jesse was talking to, they're flawed. They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're all here for a reason, even Seattle.
Well, like it's you enter into a different conversation, flawed relative to other very good teams. You always
flawed compared to Ottawa or Detroit or Buffalo.
Right, where it's like there's
I don't know why I'm
obvious.
picking on Eastern teams.
No, but Nashville even. Where it's
Calgary.
like those are teams that you really should beat when push comes to shove. You just don't have that in the playoffs in the same way that there's no bad players in the NHL. Get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, there's no bad teams. It's just everything elevates a bit.
I think that's a good place to end it, unless you guys have any final thoughts on the Avs roster.
Like killing me at this point.
Yeah, nice, good, fun. We are going to get out of here for today. We are off tomorrow, but Monday we will be the big breakdown, Avs versus Seattle. We'll get into all the nitty-gritty details of it. We also have a bunch of preview series for all of the first-round matchups coming out on YouTube starting probably tomorrow. Maybe the first one might come out tonight, but most of them probably tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday. So check those out on YouTube. Be sure you're subscribed to the channel for when those drop. We appreciate all y'all hanging out with us, and we will talk to you Monday.